The Barry Alvarez Show with your host, Van Stout.
And thanks for joining us once again. Certainly it's got to be a lot easier to come out here, but it was a turbulent week, as you well know. But I thought that the players, you and your coaches, were able to put all of that behind you in regards to the Brent Moss stuff and focus on the task at hand and move forward, and that's what you got to do.
Well, I can't say it was easy, and but I thought our players and coaches and everyone did what they had to do today. They had to go out and play a game. We wanted to get better. We wanted to do some things, establish some of the things that we had done in the past. I knew that we would be emotionally spent. So I just wanted to go about our business and see what would happen.
Now, because last year you had a couple of off weeks, this year you had no off weeks, did Cincinnati come at a very opportunistic time for your ball club?
Well, if we wouldn't have played Cincinnati this weekend, we'd have had an open date and we'd have found somebody earlier in the year. That's just the way the schedule broke. We needed a game like this today where we could go about our business and win the football game. You know, you'd like to set the schedule, sure, you know, so it'd be convenient for you, but it doesn't always work out that way. But a game like this was just perfect for us.
Okay, let's take you to the game between the Badgers and the Bearcats. Only the second ever meeting between these two squads. We pick it up on your very first offensive drive. Darrell Bevel to Ron Johnson. I'll tell you what, Ron Johnson developing into an excellent receiver coming out of the backfield.
Ron's doing a good job. He has good hands. And again, Darrell, that's a check down. His number one receiver was picked up.
And this is a pass to Tony Simmons, and he too seems to be gaining in confidence.
Some of our young people are picking up, and they're getting better as we go along, and that's what should happen.
Now it's 3rd and 3, and Bevel to Ron Johnson. Good call, and boy, was he ever wide open.
Excellent execution. Good call by Brad.
Great block
Children.
by Fletcher.
Fletcher does a good. Our backs really do a pretty good job of blocking, protecting the quarterback.
On your next series, 4th and 2, you're going to gamble, but not much of a gamble when you got a number 41 and an offensive line like you got.
Well, our offensive line, we felt confident that we can get 2 yards. Our offensive line wanted to go, and we wanted to establish a little momentum here.
And you got the momentum.
You see Joe Rudolph here. We ran a power play. They slammed inside. You can see Joe Rudolph blocked the corner, and Fletch did a nice job of bouncing.
That leads to a Rick Schnetsky field goal. We move now to the second quarter. You're on top, 10-zip. Roberson, 14 carries, 77 yards.
It was good to see Royce get a little action, get a little more action. He's going to get better as we go along. He's starting to trim down a little bit and starting to run, and you know, he's a big body in there. He's about a 235-pounder.
3rd and 3, and this is just vintage number 41. Terrell Fletcher, 21 carries, 165 yards as he goes over the 1,000 mark, and he showed some strength here as he gets near the goal line to break the tackle and get in for the 6.
You know, Fletch is a good back. He's a good, solid back, does a lot of good things, and that's the thing he does best. When you give him a crease, he has a chance to hit the home run.
Mike Thompson strips Sturkey of the ball, and then it's recovered by Brian Jurowitz.
I was hoping Brian, you know, Coach Dan McCarney works on this drill. Pick it up and run with it. You always like to see a defensive player score. 4th
and 2, you go to your bag of tricks and almost intercepted, but Fletch did a nice job to pull it away from the defender to get the 6.
I don't know if it was almost intercepted. It was almost deflected, but here's a good job right here. Kevin Cosgrove's in charge of this phase of the game, had the block in. He's been bothering me all game to run this.
And there's the block by Chad Cascadden. And at the end of the first half, the count is 24-0. You had to feel very good about the way things happened and unfolded. I thought you were able to grab the momentum early on, and you kept it throughout the entire first 2 quarters.
At that point, we wanted to go into a 2-minute offense. We ran the ball, tried to hit something early, and didn't hit anything on the first down. Had to waste a timeout. We ended up on the 1-yard line. That's about the only thing that I would have liked to have had back, if anything, in the first half.
You talked about how your ball players might have been emotionally drained by the turn of events, but it seemed like they picked up the momentum as the game wore along, and that's all you can ask.
Well, I thought they did a very workmanlike job today. It wasn't an emotional game. Didn't want it to be an emotional game. I just wanted them to go out and play, relax and play well, and I thought they did that.
I think I've heard it somewhere before. Just win, baby, huh? We'll take a look at the second half of action between the Badgers and the Bearcats as the Barry Alvarez Show continues.
We were just out there playing our butts off. I was, playing as hard as I could. Who knows? I mean, every play could have been my last play. You never know if you're going to get hurt. But we played really well today on defense. We got after the quarterback. He threw up some balls that he needed to throw up because we got to him so fast.
The Barry Alvarez Show is sponsored by Ameritech, Cops Company of Stevens Point, Danford Jewelers of Madison, Fiduciary Management Incorporated, Fish Building Supply, General Casualty Insurance Companies, M&I Banks, MCP Corporation, Mendota Gridiron Club, Old Style and Old Style Ice Beer, Sundance Photo, and Wycor.
All right, let's take you back to Camp Randall Stadium for the final two quarters between Wisconsin and Cincinnati. A rear non-conference tilt in November. Vibberts, as they're trying to drive, and he gets picked off here by Pete Monty.
You know, we made some crucial mistakes in this opening drive to keep them alive. But I really like the way our defense came up with the play. Pete making an interception here to stop their drive.
They get the ball a little bit later in the quarter, 3rd and 11. Petrus, the freshman quarterback, in to replace the injured Vibberts, and he gets a rude indoctrination. Intentional grounding, that hurts him that much more. And then we pick it up with your drive, and this is a thing of beauty. It looks like Darrell Bevel's arm's pretty good right here.
I thought Darrell really came back strong all week. His arm is much stronger. He's getting real close to being 100%.
And touchdown Tony lives up to the nickname, and that ups the advantage to 31-0. We move now to the fourth quarter, 1st and 10, and John Todrick playing in place of the injured Jason Manecki. Not a bad way to make his first collegiate start.
I thought Todrick did a pretty good job for us holding up in there. Manecki's really come on and been a force in there, but John, I thought, did a nice job for his first start.
2nd and 14, Asbury Commander sacks Petrus. This forces Cincinnati to punt. And on your first possession of the fourth quarter, Jason Burns coming off the bench, and he goes right up the gut for 28 yards.
It was nice to see Jason do this. You know, he had some misfortune in the Purdue game, and to come back, and he made a couple real nice plays.
And this is Burns from 17 yards out, and he smells out this touchdown.
Hits the crease right here, it shows a burst, and gets in the end zone.
One final look at it. Good blocking.
You can see the seam open there, and he has enough speed to get into the crease.
And that closes out the scoring at 38-7. That's the game highlights. Here are the players for the post-game analysis.
With everything that went on this week, you know, it was a circus around here. And, you know, the way that we blocked it out of our minds and focused in on today's game and went out, and a lot of us let out some pent-up frustrations, you know, and let it loose on the field. So, you know, we feel pretty good about it.
It was a tough week on us, but, you know, it just shows the type of character we have in this football team. And, you know, everybody pulled together. I think we became a much closer football team today, and you know, hopefully that'll carry over next week.
It was all right, you know, it's a new experience. Thought I could have played a little better. But
Had to be a lot of fun, though.
Yeah, it was. It's a lot different being in game shape than being in running shape. You know, I was pretty gassed for a couple series there.
No, I'm not 100%, you know, but I feel, like I said, always, you know, I can be effective to help the team, you know, and but I have to be on, you know. I mean, I can't play like I did last week. You know, I wasn't into the game mentally. You know, I did a lot of mental mistakes, things that I don't normally do. So I had to get myself into the game today. And
You've earned the nickname Touchdown Tony. It's got to make you feel awfully good every time you get in there for 6.
Man, because it makes me smile, basically. And then when I hear people like touchdown, I'll be like, okay. Then I'll just listen to it. Then I'll be like, okay, you got to get that out your mind. You got to focus on the game.
I'm pretty much ecstatic. Plus, we got to win. And but we also have to realize that next week, you know, styles don't mean anything. We got to pull out another win.
Are you going to take the lineman out for, maybe not steak, but at least, you know, pork loin or something like that?
Maybe one day when I make money, if I ever make money, I could do that. But right now, a firm handshake and a hug gonna have to do.
The Fletch, one and only, I tell you what. All right, let's take you inside some of the numbers and as to why it might have happened. 284 yards rushing. I think you got some confidence back after the Ohio State game. 5 of 12 third down conversions. Fletcher becomes the 9th running back in Wisconsin history to gain better than 1,000 yards in a season. And Darrell Bevel, the UW career leader in passing yardage and touchdowns. Those are only numbers. And the most important number you got to get to right now, 6.
We need one next week. It was nice to see Fletch get 1,000 yards. You know, he came up so close. He was so close last year. Actually had 1,000, but had a couple lost yardage plays in the Rose Bowl, and it was a shame that he didn't have 1,000. It was nice to see him get that. He's been a great player for us. He's been very consistent and solid. for us for 4 years, played as a true freshman, and to see him get that today was really gratifying.
With all of the good, there was some bad knee injuries to Giscard Bernard and Brandon Cantrell, and that's you sorry to see that.
Two young players, Giscard on a kickoff, and Brandon played early in the game. You know, Jim Huber decided we were going to play him and get him more and more playing time because he had so much potential and can do so many things. You know, and got his foot caught in the turf and twisted it. But you know, those are things that'll be taken care of, and hopefully they'll bounce back.
Okay. Up next, a look at the men who fight the battles and the trenches for the Badgers. They don't garner too many headlines, and it's hard to remember their names or their numbers for that matter, but the success the Badgers have had the last few seasons can be traced to the men in the trenches. And believe me when I say they are a unique bunch.
You think of precision, teamwork, fine-tuned synchronization.
1, 2, 3.
So what happened here? Well, they are precision, only it's on a gridiron and not a stage. Teamwork, you say? That's an integral part of toiling in the trenches.
There's so many of us, and, you know, I mean, everyone's got to learn off each other, and it's probably more of so much a position where we got to be ready to help each other on every single play, and, like, sometimes you got to know what the other side of the line's doing just to know what your block is over here, so there's a lot of communication, a lot of talk, like, between us, so when you're so used to doing that, when you're on the field, you're counting on everyone to do, you know, make their call and do their thing. So
Coach always says we got to play like 5 as 1. You know, and if you're not on track with everybody else on the line, then you're going to have trouble.
And as far as synchronized is being concerned, just ask an opposing team's defense if these guys are in sync.
I mean, we work too hard. You know, we go through too many practices. We go through too many snaps and practices to go out on the field and not, you know, do our job. And to do our job, you know, we have fun by, you know, opening holes for the running backs.
But there's a lot more to this head bashing than just knocking someone on his backside. At times, the war of the lives is just that.
It's as dirty as you want it to be.
Yeah, it get pretty bad, nah. Just depends. I mean, you get after it. We try to, you know, finish every play. And when you're doing that, I mean, they're obviously trying to do the same thing. So you get after it pretty good.
When the play is called, you got what you're supposed to do, and then what you have to do to get the job done.
I think it's just a frame of mind that you get into when you think about a certain team, and you know, like Michigan, it's a big game, and Ohio State, big physical players, and I just think it's a frame of mind you got to be into play.
It's been everything I've thought it would be, you know, and sometimes even a little more, and it depends on the week and the schemes and the team we're playing. You know, sometimes my head's just going around and around and around, and I have to get it settled down by game time.
Small head.
But,
Aside from the wins and losses, there's also the camaraderie, the memories. That's what really makes it all so special.
You know, if I were to hang my cleats up right now, I could sit there and say life's been good to me so far. And I've always went by the rule of I never want to sit down and think back in my life and say, oh, I wish I would have done this differently, or I wish I would have done that differently. I could honestly say that with the people I've met, with the things that we've done. It's, you know, it's all been a joyride for me.
And all the guys that, you know, came in those first 2 classes, you know, that went through all that from the beginning, and especially the guys in the trenches, seeing, you know, from where they came from. I mean, half of them were linebackers or whatever, not only on offense but defense, like Thompson, all those guys, how they built themselves up, you know, in the weight room and through a lot of sweat with JD. And when you work together and do stuff like that, you can accomplish anything. So that's probably what I'm most proud of.
I think the thing that I'm going to take with me most is the friendships that I've developed. I mean, like Rudy and Raymer said, you know, the guys who we look to our left and we look to our right, and most of those guys in our class are gone. I mean, there was a lot of guys who left us, and during the tough times when we were 1 and 10, you know, it would have been easy for any of us just to take off and leave, but we all stuck with it, and we all worked hard, and good things happened.
They are a unique bunch. What makes them so unique, in your opinion?
I think when you stick with it, you heard all of them talk about sticking with it. They're coached very well. Billy Callahan does a great job. We have a lot of pro scouts come through, and the first thing they tell me is how well they think our offensive line is coached. But they've got a lot of pride, and you don't get a lot of notoriety when you're in the offensive line. So you have to take the pride and realize when you do a good job, and that's what they do. And when the running backs are putting up big numbers, that's because they're doing a good job.
You mentioned notoriety, though. Let's face it, a couple of those guys have a chance to be playing on Sundays, and they can go quite high in the draft if everything falls according to plan.
Well, I would be surprised if Corey isn't a very high pick, and I think Ver and Rudy will both have a chance to play on Sunday, as I understand it, and they're good enough to play. They've come a long way. None of them were defense or offensive linemen when they came in. They were all developed, and they all developed into pretty good players, and they've stuck with it, and they understand the game pretty well right now.
Okay, stay tuned, and you'll meet some aspiring coaches that make some big contributions to the Wisconsin staff. Every staff has them, grad assistant coaches that are trying to learn the ropes, gather information, knowledge, and the insight offered by their bosses. For Wisconsin, their grad assistants are Brian Murphy and Bill Bush, who join us now. And how in the world, how much have you learned, I guess, since you've been here? I'll start with you, Brian. You're the old man of the GA staff.
I've learned quite a bit, about coaching and about personalities and reacting with other people.
Bill, you came here as a GA from Nebraska. I mean, are there any similarities between those two programs and what they've been able to accomplish through the years?
There's a lot of similarities. I think the most important thing is how you're trying to accomplish things. I think at Nebraska, Coach Osborne wanted to accomplish things on a consistent basis, and Coach Alvarez is the same thing here. And offensively and defensively, just being basically fundamentally sound is the way they want to go about things and recruit well. So everything's pretty similar.
Brian, tell people what you do and what you're responsible for during the week and then on game day.
Well, during the week, we're basically a week ahead of where the rest of the team is breaking down film. Last week we spent breaking down Illinois. That normally takes 2 days, 2 or 3 days. And then as we go through the week, I assist Coach Callahan in the offensive line. I work with him, study the offensive line. On Saturdays, I speak with him. I let him know what's happening from a higher viewpoint. Sometimes it gets difficult to see from a field level. So I tell him what I see from above.
Bill, now you're down on the field. You're working with the defense. Tell people what you do.
I'm very fortunate to be with the defensive staff here. It's a great staff. I get to work with Coach Tom McMahon. What I do during the game is just to help relay messages. Basically, I'm on the sideline. Tom can see things better from up top. He'll tell me what to pass on to the players when they come off. During the week, same thing that Brian says. And probably the most important thing that we both do during the week is running the scout teams. We have to give them a look. We'll be in charge of drawing the cards, running the scout team. So our big role for this upcoming week will be to be able to portray Illinois the best we can.
Very quickly, Barry, can you imagine getting things done without these guys?
We couldn't do it. I don't know how a staff member, as much as I give them to do, could get the things done that these guys do. They put in an unbelievable amount of hours and work to get the thing done. But when you're young as they are, I mean, you can do whatever's asked. I mean, they don't need to sleep, these guys.
That's easy for you to say. All right, guys, stick around. We'll close things out in just a moment. You got one tick left. You're in control of your own destiny, much like it was in 1993. You got to like the fact that you're playing at home, but I would imagine you need a very active crowd.
We need a lot. We need a lively crowd, not like one today. And I have to admit, there wasn't a whole lot to get excited about today. But I'm going to tell you what, we have to have an excited group next week. We have to get back to where this is a tough place to play, and our crowd has got to help us win. We need every advantage that we can get next week because Illinois is a very difficult team. They're a tough team, and we need that win.
All right, guys, thanks a lot for joining us. Best of luck against the Illini. That is our show. We'll break down that game next week and take a look at some of the Badgers' unsung heroes. Until then, so long.
The Barry Alvarez Show has been brought to you by Ameritech, Cops Company of Stevens Point, Danford Jewelers of Madison, Fiduciary Management Incorporated, Fish Building Supply, General Casualty Insurance Companies, Amidai Banks, MCP Corporation, Mendota Gridiron Club, Old Style and Old Style Ice Beer, Sundance Photo, and Wycor. General Casualty Insurance Companies, Amidai Banks, MCP Corporation, Mendota Gridiron Club, Old Style and Old Style Ice Beer, Sundance Photo, and Wycor.